Greetings everyone, my name is Jonathan Bailey. I am from the website Plagiarism Today, which can be found at plagiarismtoday.com, and today it's time to do the 7 in 7. That's right, this is the copyright news wrap-up show thingy, where I try to get through 7 copyright-related news stories in about 7 minutes, or less. Now, all in all, we're going to try to get you through a week's worth of copyright news in the time it takes to eat a small snack. So grab a bite to eat, get a soda, get a beer, get whatever, and sit down and ready to get your copyright news fix. Quick programming note, we missed last week's. I was doing the U.S. Copyright Office Safe Harbor public comment thingy, blew up my Friday and thus part of my weekend. Sorry, didn't get to record, but we're back on track now. Also, before I begin, please do like, please do subscribe. We'd love to have you come back for more. Like I said, trying to get you caught up on copyright news as quickly as possible. So all that stuff I'm supposed to say at the end of the video, I'm saying now instead so I don't forget, because this is a pretty intense 7 minutes for me. On that note, everyone, we are going to start time right about now. Okay, first off this week we have news from the European Union. The European Court of Justice Advocate General, that's a heck of a name, has made a recommendation saying that links to copyright infringing material are not in and of themselves infringing. Now, this case actually deals with the former Dutch publisher of Playboy, who was accusing a site whose name I have no hope of pronouncing correctly, of copyright infringement for posting links to illegal photographs from Playboy. They had sued the site, and basically the Dutch Supreme Court is asking the European Court of Justice for advice, and the European Court of Justice advice is getting advice from the Advocate General, because that's how the EU works. And the long and short of it is the Advocate General has said that no, it's not copyright infringement. Now, the reason behind it is because he believes that since the works were already made available, linking does not make them available again, therefore not a violation of any exclusive rights under copyright. The ruling is not binding. The Court of Justice could go another way with it, but most likely they will not. In Sweden, though, an interesting ruling here involving Wikimedia, saying that they were breaking copyright, they were violating copyright by publishing a database of public artwork. Now, the European Union recently passed something called the Right of Panorama, which means that people like you and me and tourists and everyone else can go around and take pictures of public art and public buildings without concern. However, there are commercial restrictions to that, and according to the court, Wikimedia, even though they are a non-profit, created a database with commercial value, and therefore it is a copyright infringement. Long and short of it is, a lot of people are very unhappy with this ruling, understandably and predictably, but that is what it is. Wikimedia is said to be working with its lawyers both in the European Union and here in the United States to figure out what the heck they need to do next. Turning our attention to the United States, we have the company ReDigi. You might not have heard that name in a while. ReDigi is famous for its attempt to create a marketplace for used music. A very interesting concept, to say the least. They were sued by the major record labels, claiming that there is no such thing as used digital music. However, ReDigi said their big idea was they would look and make sure that it was a legitimately purchased track, therefore no pirate tracks for sale, and then they would remove the file and then resell it to someone else. But as the record labels pointed out, that obviously makes copies in the intermediary. Well, the judge ruled that ReDigi was infringing, and they were set up to have a trial on damages. However, the two sides have reached an agreement on damages, but that doesn't bring an end to the case. The reason is ReDigi now is free to appeal on the issue of their liability. They believe that right of first sale protects them, and that's the right for you to be able to resell any legitimately copied work. You can take your DVDs and sell them to whoever you so well please. They believe the right of first sale protects them. Our record labels and the judge so far have disagreed, but now they get to take that issue on appeal. Shifting our focus now to the WWE. This one's a fascinating case here. The wrestler Rene Goguen, I don't know how to say his last name, but formerly known as Rene Dupree during his time in the WWE, is suing for streaming royalties. Basically, he's saying that his contract required the WWE to pay him a certain percentage of every time his image was used on streaming services, on basically every time it was used, and that they are being robbed, that he and other wrestlers are being robbed blind by streaming services, specifically the deals they have with Netflix, as well as WWE's own over-the-top WWE network. WWE has responded saying that in 2011, Dupree signed a buyout agreement that quote-unquote waived any claim for future royalties of any kind for any reason, and that should be the end of that case. However, this is, like I said, they're trying to make this a class action suit, so it's possible other wrestlers could become involved. Next up, Justin Bieber has suffered a very bizarre setback. He's on a bit of a tiff with a songwriter over the song Somebody to Love. Long and short of it is the songwriter says it was a plagiarism of his work. He had worked with Usher, Usher worked with Bieber, blah, blah, blah. Similar thing to what we've heard before. But the interesting thing about it is the judge initially tossed this case out, saying there was just not enough similarity. The songwriter appealed, and the second circuit, I think it was the second circuit, the appellate court, whichever one it was, overturned that. And now it's back at the lower court. And now we're steamrolling our way to a trial. And when I say steamrolling, I'm not actually exaggerating very much, because the two sides agreed to extend some deadlines. One of the deadlines they agreed to extend between themselves was a deadline for expert witness testimony. Bieber's team missed that deadline because they thought they had an agreement. The judge said, nah, I don't care about your agreement. We're moving at this pace. And now they're filing an emergency motion to try and get their expert witness testimony in. Very, very bizarre case. Shifting gears to Robert Mapplethorpe, the famous photographer. Another photographer is filing a lawsuit against the estate and various galleries showing Mapplethorpe's work, saying that a series of photographs of Robert Mapplethorpe dressed in drag were actually taken by him. The photographer in question is Bobby Miller. He claims that in 1979 he took the images, and long and short, they're his copyright. However, the estate claims that even if Miller clicked the shutter button, that they are still Robert Mapplethorpe's creation. Now, typically speaking, the photographer, whoever snaps the photo, we saw this in the monkey selfie case, typically whoever snaps the photo is the copyright holder, so it's kind of a weird argument, but we will see where this one goes. I'm kind of fascinated to keep an eye on this one. And finally this week, Sony Music has filed a lawsuit against Rdio executives claiming fraud. Long story short on this one is Rdio, as we know, recently filed bankruptcy and had most of their assets bought by Pandora. Now, according to Sony, when Sony and Rdio were negotiating new terms on a license agreement, which Rdio had pretty much reneged on, had failed to pay millions of dollars that were supposedly guaranteed to Sony, they never told Sony about the impending bankruptcy or the possible sale to Pandora, so that Sony wouldn't demand the money right then. They're claiming that basically, while Sony and Rdio were negotiating, Rdio and Pandora were negotiating how they were going to go into bankruptcy, and then Pandora would purchase Rdio's assets. And the reason this would work out is because Rdio's executives would be first in line to get any money from the sale, and Sony would be left to wait in the wings. So they have now filed a fraud lawsuit. And I think that, that brings us to the end of our time. We had a few seconds left. Like I said, don't expect anything too thorough, don't expect anything too detailed in this. Just a quick wrap-up of what's been going on this week in copyright news. On that note, everyone, I will remind you once again, because I did remember, do like, do subscribe, do all that good jazz, and I will see you guys next week.